Welcome back everyone. In today's video we're going to be comparing two Raspberry Pi portable gaming systems that run RetroPie, the RaspiBoy and the TinyPi Pro. Let's get started. So these are the two systems we're going to be comparing today. On the left here we have the TinyPi Pro and on the right we have the RaspiBoy. I'm going to show you the basics of each system and then we're going to compare them on 5 points to see which one we think is the best. We're going to look at construction, build quality, portability, pliability and price. So starting with the RaspiBoy, you can see it's quite nice in the hand here, feels like a SNES pad with a screen on. At the top here it's got two USB ports and shoulder buttons on the back there. It has these switches on the back which control the system menu and the power switch to turn it on and off. Here on the side you've got the micro USB for charging, volume control, headphone jack and a micro HDMI. If you flick the switch on the back here, it will turn on the whole system and start booting RetroPie. You can see the screen start up. It takes a little while to actually start, both of the systems do, to get going. And once you're in, it has a really nice skin for RetroPie here. You can see you can kind of go left and right through games like you normally would. You can see the screen is pretty clear on this, it's pretty good. The controls are really nice and easy to use. You can see the power light there, the 4 little LEDs that tell you how much charge it's got. It's pretty responsive. The screen could be brighter, it's not really bright, but it's still quite pleasant. It's not running at a massively high resolution, but obviously most of the games we're going to play on this also aren't going to run at high resolution, so that's not a problem. Obviously some systems which run at a different resolution than the screen or different ratio than the screen will run with kind of bars on. You can see on the GBA here, but that's pretty typical for RetroPie. It doesn't try and scale it up, but you can choose to if you want to kind of fill the whole screen. So moving on to the TinyPi Pro, you can see this is absolutely minute. I can just about kind of get my fingers around it here. It's got a really nice printed case. See when we turn it on its side, we've got a charge port, we've got the USB port for the Pi and the HDMI. At the top we've got the two shoulder buttons, the left and right. And at the bottom we've got the power button and it's also a kind of menu function button. Unlike on the RaspiBoy, the TinyPi Pro has its micro SD card actually accessible. It hasn't got a spring load, you can just kind of slot it in here at the top here, so it's a bit tricky to get out with your fingernail. So you start it by holding this power button on the bottom till the green light goes solid, and it will boot up just as quickly as the RaspiBoy does into RetroPie. Once it's booted, you'll start with a RetroPie menu, but this made specifically for the TinyPi Pro. You can see here I can kind of scroll through the games, but they're keeping it nice, crisp, clear graphics here and choose my games. But what is brilliant on this is this screen is absolutely minute, but so crystal clear. It's so sharp. You can read text even in RPGs. It's really good quality. Much brighter than the RaspiBoy screen. And as expected, games play really well on this tiny, crisp, clear screen. But obviously you're probably going to want to move it quite close to you to be able to play, because it is so tiny. Once again, GBA games play brilliantly, but obviously it is kind of cropping the screen there. But again, you can see this screen is still staying really crisp when we're playing the game. So let's start to actually compare the systems head to head. So the first thing we're going to look at is construction. Now I haven't got a build video for the RaspiBoy as I did that a couple of years ago now. Both of them took about less than an hour to build. They're relatively straightforward, came with good instructions and good videos. The TinyPi Pro is amazingly engineered to fit stuff in such a small space. It can be a little bit fiddly, but it comes with all the kit you need, even comes with its own tweezers and things to be able to put it all together. Both of them use the Raspberry Pi Zero or the Zero W, whichever one you want, so it's the same computer inside both of them. The RaspiBoy obviously has more room inside to kind of work around, but actually I found it a little bit harder to close the case on the RaspiBoy to get everything in one place, but pretty much they were the same to put together. So I would call construction a draw. So moving on to build quality, obviously both of these are small production made systems. They're nothing like as good as the quality that you'd get from something like the Game Boy SP here. But the TinyPi Pro, this is created using a 3D printer for the case. It's really solid. It feels kind of like a tree ball mint if you're in the UK and you know what one of those feels. It's slightly rough, but it's really well made, really well constructed, feels quite strong. You could drop it quite easily and it would be perfectly fine. I think the screen is obviously absolutely awesome. The speaker is okay. I mean, it's a tiny little smartphone speaker. It just about works there. If we then look at the RaspiBoy, then this is an injection molded case, so it does actually feel a little bit more professional. Obviously the buttons, because they're full size, feel a lot more clickable and a lot more like a normal gamepad. So actually I would call this one that the RaspiBoy probably has a better build quality overall, but it is pretty close. So portability, it's really easy here. I mean, this is the RaspiBoy. Yes, it fits in my quite large jean pockets, but it's not exactly comfortable. However, the TinyPi Pro, I mean, it just drops in. I've got a whole ton of room. In fact, I've got so much room there, I can even shove my wallet in as well. So this one's a pretty easy one. This is the TinyPi Pro that wins. So playability, this should be a pretty straightforward one again. The TinyPi Pro is amazing how small it's managed to get it, and the buttons are really good with little micro switches, but they're nowhere near as comfortable as holding the much larger RaspiBoy and its much more comfortable buttons. Also, the battery on the TinyPi Pro, just because it's so small, is not going to last anywhere near as long in a game as it is on the RaspiBoy. So another easy one to call. This is a win for the RaspiBoy. So now looking at price. Both these systems still require you to buy a Pi Zero, so that's not included in the price. But both of them started on Kickstarter where you could buy them at different prices, but now both those Kickstarters are finished. If you want to buy the RaspiBoy, it's available. It's about £71, which is about $93. The TinyPi Pro is going to be available, I think, soon. I'll put the links below, and it should be about £64 or $84. So very, very slightly, the TinyPi Pro wins this. So I'm sure you've noticed that means we've actually got a draw of these two systems. They both won 3 points because they drew on one of them. So how on earth do you decide what you want to buy and which one you should get? They're both brilliant. They're both amazing engineering feats to get something so small to be able to run so many emulators here. I think if you want something to take down the pub and show your friends and just be able to shove in your pocket or fit anywhere, then the TinyPi Pro is a really fun little bit of kit. But if you actually want to be able to play these things in your own time and feel comfortable and really even finish a game, then the RaspiBoy is obviously much more playable, but it doesn't have that fun factor and it isn't that tiny little thing you can put along. So I'll leave that decision up to you. I would say get both, and that's exactly what I've done. But I'd love to hear what you think and put your comments below. Please remember to subscribe, it really helps the channel, and to hit that like button, and we'll see you next time.